Rolling.
18.5, 19.1, take 8. Action. This is the second film that I've done that has had military elements in it. My character comes in to a cave with all kinds of IED sort of elements laying around, and so I had 3 members that were kind of infiltrating this cave.
The scene that we need all this military stuff for is just like, it's like half a page. And so there's a certain expectation in pre-production. You just decide that, well, this scene, all we need for them to do is run down the hall with their helmets on and it's going to look fine.
Most people don't anticipate that just outfitting 4 guys would take about $10,000 worth of gear, and this stuff would probably weigh between 200 and 300 pounds.
So I'm afraid that my expectations were very low.
When a director has a certain vision for an action scene, the bullet exchange is directly responsible for achieving that vision.
We'd met a couple different times and talked about elements that were important with the storyline, and also the gear that they thought would be relevant to bring that to life. They read the script and just basically nailed it.
We worked with the director and found out what he wanted and how we could enhance that. Within those bounds, we are free to operate, and so we dressed up those 3 guys as accurately as we could.
We'll both do research, as in, what is this scene for? Is it like a Iraq war thing? Is it an Afghanistan war thing?
And that's what's so great about them is they come not only with the gear, but they come excited to be there and excited to share ideas about how this would actually go down.
But I've been on other shoots where it sort of becomes an approximation, a general assumption of what gear would really look like.
In a case where a director doesn't know exactly what would be accurate or what he needs, we certainly fill that gap as well.
Really knowledgeable about what they were doing and what they would do in that situation.
Real squad movements and real weapon tactics.
You know, you've got all these things that you're worrying about as far as story and plot and all those things, and to work with someone who really understands that is a huge benefit.
It was awesome to see David working the same way, being like, okay, well, this is what I would do in my experience as a sergeant. And the director's like, cool, man, that's good. You go do that. That's awesome. I don't have to worry about that, and that's great.
The disconnect is always the surprise the filmmaking crew has once you show up with all this stuff and actually see it all put on their characters.
When I saw the props and just went, wow, this looks amazing. That was a cool moment.
He didn't expect. He really didn't expect the professionalism that Bullet Exchange brought, and all the detail.
It all boils down to details in the end. So when the director wants this sort of look, well, that means I have to have this helmet with this helmet light, with these batteries for that helmet light, this type of uniform, this type of vest, but times 4, and, you know, with the variety, but also the consistency between them.
With all of the prop pieces that they brought, really brings that realism to it.
It definitely elevated the level of my performance and the believability of my performance, and it definitely made it less of a tension thing and less of an acting thing and more of a realism thing.
Yeah, they brought all the stuff so that all of the actors looked good and the actors actually performed well, but then they dressed the scene beyond the expectations of the director.
Getting what I wanted with keeping it absolutely real, I think it's extremely important to get those things right.
The whole day I was just completely impressed with them.
It's going to be insanely good because of the eye to the detail, and the director has that trust.
Wearing that great gear, it was put on by guys that have worn it, that use it, they train in it. It was such a secure feeling that I had, and it gave me so much confidence that I wasn't in charge of making this making this armor look good.
I was able to integrate my BX training, and it felt so good to gear up in all that military gear with the knowledge of what goes where and how to use what when.
Just a great way to work, and that's the way they work.
I really enjoyed working with David and Mitch from BX. They are highly professional and they're always prepared. They care about what happens on screen.
Just the production value alone, I think, makes it a huge asset.
on camera it might seem simple, but actually getting 4 guys on an entry team to breach a door, to enter a room, and actually start firing, that's an extremely intricate and choreographed action. It's something that I would not recommend anybody try without some intensive training.
Which way are you going? Going right. Going right. On 3, ready boys? 1, 2, 3, move!
To actually go through that training of clearing a room, it's something completely foreign unless you actually been in the military. There's so many variables taken into consideration.
When I train actors, I train them basically in a truncated version of how I learned. So Battle Drill 6, for example, would take you years to master. I mean, really, if you want to do it professionally like Blackwater or Delta Force. Encapsulates all manner of disciplines. So you have hand-to-hand, you have how to communicate with a squad, weapon drills integrate with that. You have to reload on the move, you have to acquire and engage targets with deadly accuracy.
And then when you're going in, clearing the room, make sure the corners are good. Also looking up, depending on the situation, the scenario that they give you.
We have different scenarios we run through with the actors, so like a T-shaped hallway.
We literally set up chairs and we do room clears, we do gun drills, we do crouch walking.
An L hallway, approaching a door, and how you communicate wordlessly with your squad without using radio or hand signals.
David and Mitch will sometimes stand in a room and they'll act like they're instructing until they pull out a plastic gun just to throw you off. You have to react to it accordingly, and
you can't just pick up a weapon and based on that one movie you saw a couple of months back, do a breach and clear on a room. It just doesn't happen. You have to be trained if you want to do it right.
It could potentially be very dangerous, and it'll probably just look silly had you not gotten some real training.
The way you kick in a door, or you come around a corner, or you fan out, or all these terms that I don't really know. Not having that kind of experience with it, I think that sort of training would be very valuable.
Somebody who has not gone through the B training would not be able to portray entering and clearing a room properly at all. 100% feel it would look half-assed and almost silly and comical.
I mean, there's no question with them. Sometimes with other films out there, they're like, oh yeah, that looks kind of, fake. But with the training that I've received through BX, it's like, there's no question. They're just like, wow, that looks legit.
Once you get it down, it's very scary. Very scary what can be actually possible training actors to make them look like a legit entry team.
That was good.
Woohoo!
The live fire event that I attended, I wasn't really sure what to expect. We came there with a bunch of guys, a lot of guns. I was kind of like, wasn't sure what to think. Everything was handled really safely, which is priority number 1 for me. I do a lot of shooting myself, just as an enthusiast. I think a lot of that you kind of get trapped in kind of the boom, oh cool, boom, and you're not ever thinking about, oh, there's a threat coming, or or there's multiple targets, or I have to actually be moving in some sort of dynamic environment. But simply owning a gun and having shot it does not mean you can shoot. Especially in any kind of dynamic environment, multiple targets, having to reload, that's something that requires speed and efficiency. There's such a disconnect between, a casual observance versus actually immersing yourself into the techniques, into the, just the mindset it's a huge, huge disconnect. So we did some very basic firearms handling, manipulation of all the different types of weapons, and then we kind of very slowly worked our way up to just doing some dry fire training, to live fire, and then eventually to firing while on the move. Having a mindset of like, okay, now we're going to move and we're going to shoot this target here, and then you're going to engage this one with your handgun, because by the time you get done with this one, your rifle's going to be dry, so you're going to have to transition. So that kind of idea and that kind of thinking mindset is without training is, you're not even aware of it. That's how a gunfight would happen. Since I've done the live fire training with the BX, those are things that I've implemented into my own training, my own routines, even just at home doing dry fire routines, reloads and things like that, just to keep myself sharp and just being ready for a more dynamic environment if or when I was ever in a shootout. So it was a lot of fun. It was kind of a really eye-opening experience. I think there's a huge disconnect between people that are like, oh yeah, I can shoot because I have a gun. Well, yeah, you can stand behind a line on a one-way range and shoot, but can you move and adapt to the environment? Without training, you'll be lost.
So another TV show that I recently started watching that's not necessarily accurate in its gunplay and its portrayal of, military whatever, is The Walking Dead. But there was a scene in season 2 where there's one of the characters in there, her name is Andrea, she's the blonde hair girl, and she doesn't know what she's doing with the gun. So it shows her fumbling around trying to put a pistol that's been disassembled for cleaning. It shows her trying to put it together, and she doesn't know how to do it. So at that time, one of the walkers or one of the geeks or whatever they call them attacks her, and she can't defend herself with the pistol. Someone else comes and kills the walker, and it instills in her the need to learn how to use a pistol and how to properly care for him. So she gets her training from this other guy that was a police officer before the epidemic happened or before all this stuff happened, and he showed her how to use a pistol, how to operate a pistol, how to take a pistol apart and clean it and all that stuff. And now, later on in the series, it shows her proficient with her use in the handgun. That's kind of the same thing we do, is her acting in the beginning where she doesn't know what she's doing is the same thing that your actors are going to be in real life when they're handling something they don't know what to do. And we are taking the role of that police officer, teaching her how to use that weapon, so later on in the series, she can actually defend herself and she can use that weapon properly.
My role within the BX is a instructor of hand-to-hand combat, which is Jeet Kune Do. The best thing about Jeet Kune Do is that you can adapt it to any style of fighter. Some use heavy sets, you can adapt it to them. Some use a little bit smaller, not as fast. Jeet Kune Do really becomes adaptable towards it because there's so many different styles that you can incorporate to it. Studied most of my life in Jeet Kune Do with Kempo karate techniques. What I really love about it is the realism that it really brings to the table.
Every style is similar in a way, of course, because you're punching and kicking, but this is definitely going to be more combat oriented.
The real fact is that combat and fighting only happens about 14 inches away from another person. You're not going to have enough time to go back and do like a side kick, a roundhouse kick, or anything like that. The Navy SEALs consulted Dan Inosanto. Dan Inosanto helped create Jeet Kune Do with Bruce Lee. And so that's how the Special Forces started implementing Jeet Kune Do techniques for it.
It kind of puts another pizzazz factor in their films. You got the military training, then all of a sudden now you got the martial arts.
It's not going to be flashy or what looks super pretty, but of course the moves look effective and more gritty and kind of dirty, if you want to say.
The quickest, easiest way to take out your opponent in under about 10-15 seconds.
Sort of forced me to respect that violence, I guess, for lack of a better word.
It's close quarter fighting, it's real, you learn how to break or kill your opponent under 10 to 15 seconds, so it's realistic fighting. So I take my training and my teaching as serious as David and Mitch do when they're training with weapons.
When it comes to untrained actors and fight scenes, I think you have maybe 1% shot of it really pulling off and looking good if they're not trained.
Realistic training is absolutely critical and essential to do an accurate job with any sort of action role that you're playing.
In essence, you can still fake how to hold a gun, but you can't fake how to throw a punch. If you don't know how to throw a punch, you're going to look silly. I think JKD tends to draw out the silliness in a lot of people, and they don't really like it. However, the people who stick with it You'll see immediate improvements under Danny's direction. The students who stick with the JKD program are going to start thinking of themselves as fighters, and rightly so.
Yeah, when it comes to JKD, being a part of the BX and training process too, I think that's a huge thing. It fits right there hand in hand with their military training.
It's been really, really interesting and informative. It's taught me a lot of self-confidence, and it helps to give me sort of a base knowledge of effective martial arts training that I can take to film projects.
It's just a combined package. It kind of sews the deal, you know?
There's no question as to whether actual trigger time is more beneficial than just pretending. Even shooting professionals need their trigger time if they want to maintain their skill. So the same thing translates to an actor. They can learn it, but until they apply it, it basically means nothing. So the live fire events are finally getting their toes wet in the realm of military realism.
Everyone lock your slides to the rear. So we're going to use the real front. There. So they're going to have their
The live fire event that I attended, I wasn't really sure what to expect.
You can go all day showing this is what a weapon is, this is how you hold it, this is how it functions, but until they can get to the range and actually put real bullets down the range, they can't fully appreciate the power behind a weapon.
It's kind of a no bullshit situation because you're dealing with live firearms and you're dealing with multiple ways to kill people.
Everything was handled really safely, which is priority number one for me.
It really taught me how to respect the destructive power of that kind of weapon.
You know, if we're going to put our own lives on the line with these actors so they can get some trigger time, it's pretty essential that we instill some safety in them.
Weapons are no joke. At the end of the day, I felt very comfortable, very safe in the environment.
You have to break into them and tell exactly, you know, how realistic this actually is, and there's no bullshit about it.
But simply owning a gun and having shot it does not mean you can shoot. You know, especially in any kind of dynamic environment, multiple targets, having to reload, you know, that's something that requires speed and efficiency.
How it starts off is that David and Mitch will set the weapons up, they give you a vest, they give you a drop leg, and they will drill you for 20-30 minutes about proper etiquettes at a live firing range and what to do for safety first. When somebody hands you a gun, how to clear it to make sure there's not a bullet in the chamber and the magazine's clear too, before you physically, as a shooter, put your own bullets into your own clip or magazine.
Rebuilding that confidence before we throw them to the wolves and let them shoot some stuff.
And then we kind of very slowly worked our way up to just doing some dry fire training, to live fire, and then eventually to firing while on the move.
The bullet exchange instructions and training was very intense. I felt like it was an environment that you could actually walk away with a lot of training.
There was a huge variety of weapons that we were trained on, which was awesome. So it's not like, hey, everybody gets this one particular pistol and knows how to use it. So we had several weapons.
Well, we bring all the toys for our live fires.
308s, AK-47s. They brought out their handguns, 45s, 9mm, USP 40.
We bring a couple M4s. We bring all of our pistols.
It's a lot of the weapons I had never handled before, like an AK-47.
They have a wide variety of weapons that they get to play with.
One of the things that actors need to do is they need to simulate muzzle recoil. You can't really assimilate unless you've actually shot a real gun.
Because every weapon feels different. Every recoil feels different. And for an actor to properly portray just even the simple thing as a recoil, unless you fired one, you wouldn't know the difference.
Giving an actor as much trigger time as they can on all of these different weapon systems gives them a better understanding of how different weapons are going to react.
I think this kind of training is very important, and if you're an actor, I would hope that you would want to go through this rigorous type of training.
If you haven't really had the training, I don't think that you're going to be able to fully respect that destructive power of that weapon.
So when they're given a prop on set, they translate that same level of respect to that prop weapon.
So when you get on set, you're well versed and you look comfortable with a gun on film.
When you get done doing a live fire, you feel like a man. That's the best way to put it, dude.
Dude, this is fun.
A really eye-opening experience.
It was a good experience.
They're just invaluable experiences that I can take with me to set.
I learned quite a bit from Bullet Exchange, and I think their diversity has a far reach.
Reset. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see tongue and I hear fumbling.
I totally fumbled. Gunfighting is an art. It's a martial art, is what it is, just like karate or any other martial art.
The fundamentals of weapons should be our selling point of the whole operation.
If you're going to do a serious action role, you do need to be trained in it because, I mean, you could be the greatest actor in the world, but if you're not holding your weapon correctly, you're not conveying that role.
Seeing it done wrong, like I said, just pulls you out of the story and distracts you from what's supposed to be going on.
We want to get them into weapons training immediately because that is going to be their most important skill that they're going to take away from us that they are then going to use on set.
When I give an actor a weapon, first thing, within 2 seconds, he's flagging someone in the face with that rifle.
First thing they're going to do is put their finger on the trigger and they're going to point it at someone.
If he's going to do that behind the scenes, he's going to do that in the scene.
That obviously shows that they don't know how guns work, and it shows they don't have respect for the weapons and what they can do.
Safety is always emphasized from day one. So the way we do that is we teach them, you know, you're going to keep your finger off that trigger.
Get your finger off that trigger. I learned that real quick. That was one of the first things right away.
We train with real weapons, so they definitely know how a real weapon would function.
These are real weapons, and people, if they don't know how to use them, they're going to end up hurting somebody and doing something stupid.
The first class I went into with Beat, it was like a deer in headlights. They laid out all the weapons.
And they really know what they're doing when it comes to working with the weapons and also training actors to operate them.
I had decided to do beat training after seeing the Bullet Exchange on Facebook, and I looked into it and I thought, man, this is the kind of stuff I need to do. This is the kind of stuff I need on my resume.
We conduct our training typically in a crawl, walk, run format. In most cases, we found that the crawl stage takes years. So we typically start them off with weapon functions, weapon types, caliber types, how to break down and clean weapons.
The handling of a weapon, you need to learn the basic rules of gun safety. You need to learn the proper grip, the proper way to manipulate the weapon.
Techniques to avoid, because no one does stuff like this. It's all very professional, very streamlined.
Having the proper body posture will show if they know what they're doing or if they don't know what they're doing.
The first thing we do in Beat is throw them an M4, because as soon as you batter down that idea that I have to work my way up to the cool weapons, you're putting that weapon on a pedestal.
We're trying to show these actors that this is not this unattainable or super special thing. We're trying to show them that this weapon is a part of you and it is integrated into how you're going to move and how you're going to act.
So the weapon wouldn't feel like a weapon, it wouldn't feel something foreign, but just a part of me. Be able to pick it up, feel natural.
If you gave me all that stuff, I'd maybe pick up a gun and maybe shoot like Arnold Schwarzenegger down at the hip or something, but I wouldn't really know the proper way of doing it. I could maybe take a guess, probably from other movies that I saw, but those are probably wrong.
Military training is like learning to play golf or learning to kickbox. It's forcing your body to do something that's atypical to it.
Even if you take a dance movie, that person's got to learn to dance. If you take somebody for a fight movie, they got to learn to fight. It's all body mechanics and motion.
There's so much to it. It's so complex. It takes months and months of training just to get down the basics.
Well, there's so many little details that need to be practiced in order to be able to handle a weapon properly. You really need to be coached on if you've never done it before.
Their training is from shooting to handling a weapon to running with a weapon. It's very all-encompassing.
It's all about the details. And really good actors are worried and concerned about the details.
Moving around in military gear is never easy, and it's never as fluid and effortless as you seem to think from movies and video games.
And then he goes, okay, throw this on. And I put the vest on for the first time.
You can't just slap someone in this gear. You hold M4 up to your shoulder in a t-shirt, you're like, oh yeah, that's fine, I can do this. Throw on all the gear, that gun is now like a foot away from your shoulder.
And you have to train with that. and all the gear on top of that, and all the ammo on top of that, which pulls down on your spine, and it requires, you know, physical discipline to get used to.
Hold your weapon and down. It's basically all the same one class, and it just, you're in a squat position.
Enemy upper left, and you know, we have to really go through it.
Target in front, lift the weapons up. You know, never put your finger on the trigger at all. This chicken thing, bring it down.
Adam, you're out of ammo. Click it in, you know, and then you have to run through the drills of changing out a mag.
Okay, this is already expected of me, what do I do? And so they start to make their own decisions. They're forced to use their training to kind of make a decision on the fly.
It got done. I remember my lower back was killing me, my legs, my thighs were burning, and I was like, this is nuts.
But I think it's essential to getting them immersed immediately.
It's intense, it's awesome.
And I knew quickly that I was going to have to read up and study on military techniques, terminology, which is the big thing also. Once they train you through the weapons and the gear, they'll ask you why you're wearing it. Why are you doing this? What kind of caliber does this weapon take? Because what it truly shows is that if you actually know and understand what you're getting, because if you can explain it to them, then they've done their part.
So you really need to have regular refreshers and regular training in order to maintain any proficiency in this skill.
Just like with martial arts, you might be learning a sword or a bow staff. That's also a weapon, and it takes years of practice.
That's something that I don't think you can expect of most actors, is even if they did handle guns on this production 6 months ago, now we're on this production, are they going to remember everything that they learned 6 months ago?
I had to give it enough, the proper respect where it just, you have to take your time to build the technique, because once you build the technique, you can build the strength, and then the speed comes from there.
And that's what's awesome about these guys, is they are accurate 100%.
So in that sense, I mean, that kind of realism, it's just a matter of making sure people know what the heck they're doing.
If you have that understanding going into your scene, having trained for it months in advance, you're going to nail that role.
So you actually become what you're actually being trained for.
They really make sure that their actors are prepared.
It's about being professional at the end of the day and actually getting an actor to accomplish what they would like, and Bullet Exchange is very good at that.
In the age that we're living in right now, there are hundreds of thousands of combat veterans. There's also hundreds of thousands of police officers, corrections officers, or even just gun enthusiasts or shooters. They all know how gunplay is supposed to go. They know how weapons work. They know how things are supposed to look or what looks right. If you are not capturing the realism for your projects, you are not going to capture the audience's full attention. They're not going to believe your story, therefore you have lost them. BEAT stands for Bullet Exchange Actor Training Program. That's where we take actors that know nothing about military, nothing about guns. We bring them up to the speed that they need to be to properly portray the character the production calls for. Guys who don't know what they're doing and kind of think they do, they're glaringly obvious.
We see this in movies all the time where people who are supposed to be professionals are handling guns like 12-year-olds. No offense to 12-year-olds, some of them are, you know, fairly talented.
We've seen that difference in other films, and I think our eyes are savvy enough to catch that.
People have a standard of what they want to see, and if they're not happy with it, they're going to turn it off or leave the theater. You have an educated audience that you're trying to please.
If you're going to do a serious action role, you do need to be trained in it. You could be the greatest actor in the world, but if you're not holding your weapon correctly, you're not conveying that role.
Not being trained and having directors just tell you to fake it. After doing the BEAT program, I've realized how incredibly unprofessional and unrealistic that is.
If you're producing a movie and it involves military action or any action in general, I definitely recommend you send your actors in advance to our BEAT program, because if we have time to work with that actor, we can train them specifically for that role.
They train you specifically for what you are going to do.
As an actor, you always want to do like an action film and be like, dude, that'd be awesome. Like, everybody wants to be like the Bond. Everybody wants to be like in the Band of Brothers.
And I thought, man, this is the kind of stuff I need to do. This is the kind of stuff I need on my resume.
For some people, it's going to come easily. For some people, it's not.
Acting like a military expert does not come easy without training.
What I thought was correct was absolutely not correct.
But you can work with people and get the basics down for the scenes that you need to shoot. If you work with those folks again, you can always build on those skills.
It really shows people who are going to be able to sink or swim.
You have to learn it. You have to go through the motions, and you have to force your body to accept it. It has to become muscle memory.
David and Mitch as instructors are ball breakers. It's awesome. They are intense. They're incredibly thorough, and their ID detail is insane.
If you're training for a war scene, I felt like they really made you hustle and actually execute on a level that you would have to if you were in the field.
The team behind Bullet Exchange are very well-trained, experienced, and devoted to what they're doing.
They're both combat military veterans, non-commissioned officers in the Army, and they've never really stopped displaying that professionalism.
Of course, they're all experts at what they do.
If they think you're not doing it right, they'll flat out tell you. They're blunt, which I admire a lot from them.
They seem to have a definitive vision behind what they're doing.
And it, just like us martial artists have done years of martial arts, they've done years of the military. For us to try to say, oh, well, we can do that, we wouldn't be able to.
They got the gear, they got the guns, they do research, and it's still fresh in their minds, so they're training us correctly, up to date.
If you're not confident in what you're doing, and if you don't feel like you're really doing things correctly, you start thinking about it too much, and that can really take away from your performance.
As an actor, it's very, very important for me to achieve that degree of realism when it comes to anything I do.
As an actor, I'm always trying to work on my craft as much as I can.
Every professional actor wants to know the background of the occupation they're portraying. I think it is essential to the performance to get as trained in whatever the occupation I'm portraying as I can.
If you're an actor, I would hope that you would want to go through this rigorous type of training, so when you get on set, you're well versed and you look comfortable with a gun on film.
Everything that we know is open to them. So if they want to learn knife fighting, if they want to learn hand-to-hand combat, if they want to learn what's it like to wear this body armor and how would I move in it, how would I handle this weapon, how would I deploy a pistol, or how do I shoot a sniper rifle, how does this M4 work?
I think that sort of training would be very valuable.
From shooting to handling a weapon to running with a weapon, it's very all-encompassing.
How to do convoy operations, squad movements, room clearing, and communication methods used in the military. A lot of it is how to use your gear properly.
You learn a lot of weapons training stuff that's valuable for film sets, and a lot of martial arts training, and you kind of learn how to work them together.
A lot of that stuff filters down into the B program, and once an actor is doing it right, it shows.
Trying to portray a military person or someone that's using a gun does not come easily. It's not something that you can just kind of pick up one day and now you're proficient in it. It's something that takes years and years of training. Now we truncate that into months of training, but it still takes a lot of dedication and a lot of work to get to the point where you need to be.
The BX guys will definitely try their hardest to get you in that mindset and to try to make you succeed.
You know, you're doing rehearsing a play, you rehearse as much as you can in the shoes that you're going to wear on stage, because then you're used to that. You've gotten over the learning curve of becoming accustomed to those things so that the focus can be on delivering the scene as an actor.
As an actor, if you are going to be part of the BX team, you got to be ready for this, or else, you know what, don't bother.
You need to look like you know what you're doing. If the character's supposed to be a Navy SEAL, they need to look and act like a Navy SEAL and handle a gun like a Navy SEAL would. That's what BX can help you with.
Unless you've really been through this kind of training, it's going to be really hard to fake it.
You can pretend not to know what you're doing when you're trained, but you can't pretend to know what you're doing if you haven't been trained.
I only want to surround myself with the best. David and Mitch, they are the best. Some of the best in town, and they're only getting better.
Raider 6, this is Bandit 2-2. Be advised, you have a hostile position. Bandit 2-2, Raider 6. Roger. Mark that position, over. This is 3, down us by cruise. We got your right. Roger, I got him. Target's in the tree line. Raider 3, contact left. Raider 4, let's fire. Raider 2, RPG, 12 o'clock, smoke them. 6, just split it, 4-0, fire, let's go. Raider 5, we're pinned down, mind him as a hand. Roger, I got him. Roger, Chris, Charlie, 3. boys down! He's down! Roger, this is Charlie. 3-7-2-1-4-4-3. Raider 6, took it. 2-6! Raider 6 down! Raider 6 Delta, tell your company to get small. Raider 40, 2-6, Scott, over. Raider 40, Scott, over. All Raider elements, take coming out. Take cover!
It used to be that these sort of action sequences were reserved only for Hollywood budgets. Well, not anymore. The Bullet Exchange, your first choice in military prop rental, can provide for all your movie's action needs without blowing your whole budget.
So Bullet Exchange is a good opportunity.
What are the key prop components in effective, realistic military action sequences? Whether it's uniforms, gear, weapons, or the actor's ability to wear and use these things,
the Bullet Exchange provides with specifically the small budget film in mind.
A big problem with action sequences in independent film is that it's just not logistically possible on a small budget.
I can't even imagine how expensive it would be.
More than anyone would want to spend unless they're working with a huge budget.
It's not easily available to get this much equipment.
Well, I know I would pay thousands of dollars, but seriously, I wouldn't have a way to even price something like that. I don't know where you could start to do something like that.
You waste your whole budget just on a couple guns.
For example, to dress just one actor in gear like this would break a small film's budget.
And that's just one actor. Forget about gearing up a squad or a platoon, and forget about the rest of your production expenses.
The process of acquiring these props include knowing what they are, where to get them, purchasing them, assembling them correctly, getting accurate details included, worrying about safe transportation, acquiring blank ammunition in bulk, and all this to buy props that will only be used once. So where does that leave a small budget film producer? The military prop industry is almost exclusively monopolized by major prop suppliers who rent in bulk, pandering to big budget Hollywood productions for an impossible price tag, dealing on the level of tanks and helicopters. But even if you wanted accurate uniforms for just a few soldiers in one quick scene, you'd still be rejected by minimum order requirements.
This leaves no choice but to compromise. You'll either have to cut the action sequences from your script, or worse, sacrifice detailed quality by picking up military props without any know-how.
And we've all seen the sad results of that choice in small budget films.
I for one can't stand it in movies when you see people carrying the gun underneath their arm and shooting it like that.
The Bullet Exchange offers the serious military accuracy your audience craves while simultaneously meeting your budgetary limitations.
We are in business specifically for the small budget filmmaker.
The Bullet Exchange offers exactly what you need for basic daily rental fees, and without having to spend thousands on props you'll only use once. And if you think coming to us you'll still have to sacrifice quality or variety,
VX provides an exceptional variety to meet your production requirements. Whether it's uniforms, body armor, gear rigs, blank firing weapons, cold weather clothing, hot weather clothing, accessories, headgear, face paint, unit patches, or other props that can be rearranged, switched up, broken down, or revamped to accommodate the needs of your script without forcing you to accommodate our selection. We've got you covered.
Props are awesome. I don't know if you can see any of them around, but I am enthusiastic, and we get a lot of questions like, oh my god, those look so excellent.
The weapons look pretty realistic.
The realness of it all just really adds to the movie.
We can take any of your actors and dress them up to be anything you need. From 1990s regular Marine grunt, to mountain sniper, to elite ranger, to modern Army soldier, to high-tech Navy SEAL, quickly and cheaply, and be completely set ready for your production.
A lot of people are overwhelmed by our selection and the whole military atmosphere when it comes to picking out the props they need. But don't worry, if you don't know exactly the look you're going for, we'll help you find it.
With all the little touches involved in piecing together just the right setup while maintaining military accuracy, it can indeed be overwhelming, especially if you don't know how to make it look real.
But with the help of the Bullet Exchange, that's definitely accomplishable. They have great props.
Anything in a low budget film, whether it's police gear or military, any type of scene like that, I think it would work really well. Like, this stuff would just be absolutely perfect.
Whether it's neat little accessories or touches that really sell the part. But it doesn't stop there. The Bullet Exchange is also ready to make your actors be the part.
and not just look the part.
If I had stuff like this, I don't even know how to put it together.
At the BX, we have 10 years combined Army infantry experience that we will put to use, making your action sequences as realistic as possible, even if that means training your actors personally. We offer actor training programs and on-set military consultation services that can help turn your civilian actors into seasoned pros on screen.
They all look legit, which is nice because you see a lot of action movies where guns and equipment look fake and it just takes away the whole realness of it all.
As an actor, I do feel it's pretty convincing playing the part of the soldier.
You can't beat the professional first-hand experience of the people that work with it every day.
Like, it needs to be so spot on. There's so many small details.
Whether it's how to wear the uniform, how to clear a room, how to walk or talk or chew or run, or even weapon familiarization boot camp.
On fire, the socket in. All right, change out, go, go, go.
Bullet exchange is there.
I feel like this is so wrong.
We even offer competitively priced live ammunition, blank ammunition, CDs of our own organically captured sound effects, or even how to build your own ghillie suit manuals for hunters or sniper enthusiasts.
The Bullet Exchange offers a certain on-set presence that's friendly and approachable, yet achieves a maximum military accuracy at a minimal cost.
See, we have a pride issue. Everything we do has to be as accurate as possible, and we make sure of this personally. This is our pledge to our clients because we hate inaccurate movies enough without also putting our names on them.
And this accuracy extends to all aspects of your production.
They look like the real thing. That's all there is to it, and that's what you need.
The gear is down to the T.
Yeah, it looks good. If you want guys who are genuinely and personally concerned with the look and feel of your production, and some cool gear to blow away your audience, come to us.
They all know exactly what they're doing. They gave the right type of equipment to me to play the role.
That'd be way better than trying to figure it out myself.
It looks good. It's nice to have that that supervisory role. There's people that see it in the movies and think they're doing it right. They don't know exactly what they're going after, so to have someone there that can tell them yes or no is just excellent.
We love what we do, and you'll love what we do for you.
Anything that I would want as far as any type of military or any type of action sequence, I mean, you can't go wrong with the Bullet Exchange.
If I needed any equipment or weapons, I know exactly where to go.
I would use the Bullet Exchange in a heartbeat.
Absolutely, I would use the Bullet Exchange. Absolutely.
The Bullet Exchange, for when every shot counts.
Dumping yard waste in city parks and woodlands can damage and even kill trees and vegetation. Don't wait for Mother Nature to fight back. Keep Edina's open spaces clean and healthy by keeping trash and yard waste out.